Ayy, look, yeah, ayy. I'm in the lab like Dexter, brand new batch he tested. I'm with all the extras, don't try and bitch, I'm pressure. I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers.
Let's go ahead and move off from the New York Giants and let's talk about another team that's been extremely disappointing, a team that we had high hopes coming into the season for. And that's the Cincinnati Bengals. The team that started off again 0-2 this season was able to get a win on Monday night, even with Joe Burrow on one leg. But unfortunately, the following week, last week, they got smoked by the Tennessee Titans, I believe, 27-3. Joe Burrow didn't look particularly great. And now, they find themselves in a little bit of a hole, 1-3, going into Arizona this week. The Bengals offense just hasn't looked like themselves, like last year, the year before. Obviously, that's due to Joe Burrow's calf injury, his inability to, make plays with his legs, make plays outside of the pocket, and also hand in hand, Zach Taylor's play calling. But my question to you guys is, should the Bengals consider shutting down Joe Burrow, or at least benching him for a couple of weeks until he gets healthy again?
I think it's kind of too late for that now. Because if you were gonna bench Joe Burrow, you would have benched him to start off the season. I think now, like I've said this about the Bengals, is that they kind of understand this is like an extension year for a lot of guys. You're not gonna have a window where you have a lot of talent at one point. And for this roster, I think that they're gonna be losing guys. I don't expect T Higgins to be part of this roster, after this season. Something tells me I feel like this team's going to move on from him. And so I think the Bengals kind of understood that this is their attempt at a Super Bowl year. And if they were going to sit Joe Burrow, they would have sat him to start off the season. And as it stands right now, I think that they're going to continue to just ride out and see, what he's able to do currently as it stands. But, he hasn't been able to play well at all. 80% of the time, 85% of the time, they have him in shotgun to be able to protect him. And even then, one of Joe Burrow's best abilities is his ability to escape pressure. He's able to understand, have pocket awareness and move around, but he's not able to move around. He's not able to step into his throws. He's not able to evade pressure. And hand in hand, like you mentioned, Zach Taylor's play calling, I don't think he's dialing up anything quick. It's kind of just setting Jamar Chase on long routes, sending T Higgins on long routes. No one's short as a release valve. And Titans were basically blitzing like all the time. And Titans usually rush 4 guys, but even then now they understood they basically smelled blood in the water. They saw Joe Burrow with his calf injury and they were just pressuring him. And so I don't think the Bengals are going to sit Joe Burrow. I wouldn't do it just because, these guys, like if I had the choice, I would have started him. I would have benched him to start the season, let him get healthy. And honestly, I feel like they were downplaying this injury a lot more than it was, because it's night and day. If you look at Joe Burrow last year and Joe Burrow this year, it's not the same quarterback whatsoever. And I think they're downplaying this a lot more than they should have. And so, I feel like at this point they're just forced to keep playing him and just see how things go. And so I'm kind of on board with that. I know it doesn't bode well for his long-term, success, but at the same time, you put yourself in this hole when you just bench him to start the season. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, coming into the season, he gets hurt, he's out, and then he comes back. And they didn't say really much if he's 100% healthy coming back from this injury, if he's 90%, if he's 80%. They just said, oh, he's back, he's going to play. We've seen what he looked like the first 2 weeks, and we could tell that injury's affected him so much. I mean, he really can't move in the pocket. He really, it's tough for him to get out, escape, and make moves with his legs and make plays with his legs. I mean, he's just sitting in the pocket like a sitting duck with the horrible O-line that he has. And, we always talk about their O-line. They do come, sometimes they do fix up. They come to play. But right now, it's nasty. He's getting blitzed from all different directions. They're sending safeties. They're sending cornerbacks at him. And he really can't do much. He can't escape from the pocket with his injury. And I feel like they should have kept him out the first 3 to 4 weeks, let him get healthy, have that 6 to 7 week break from the beginning of his injury, let him heal up and come back. But at the same time, the offense, even if he's healthy, Zach Taylor got to switch up plays. I mean, we're looking at the same type of play calls and them throwing the ball 40 times, and one play is called 16 times, and they're doing the same play call, sending Jamar Chase on the streak and T Higgins on the in route, and that's it. Mixing blocking. I don't see a tight end on the field sometimes, and it's nasty. You're relying on your 2 big time receivers. You You got to have other options that can open up the game. You got to, open up the game for your star receivers, and Zach Taylor hasn't been able to do that. Another thing is their defense has fallen off since last year and the year before. I feel like their defense has been giving up a lot of points. They've been getting cooked. It don't matter what team they're facing. They can face Tannehill, they can face Howell, they can face the backup quarterback for the Browns. They're still getting abused. And I feel like it's a fall off. They're missing a couple key players from last year that left in free agency, and it's taking an effect on them. Having to beat up O-line, injured quarterback, and a horrible offensive scheme coach that's not running great plays, and then your defense is not helping that much. I feel like it's time to wrap it up for the Bengals season. I don't see the adjustment happening right now. Burrow's still hurt, and they got a tough schedule coming up. So, yeah.
I honestly believe the Cincinnati Bengals are playing a very, very dangerous game when it comes to Joe Burrow and this calf injury, because calf injuries are pretty tricky. When I think of a calf injury, I think of guys like Kevin Durant. I think of guys like Aaron Rodgers, two guys that dealt with calf injuries and led to torn Achilles. Kevin Durant was rushed back a little bit. Aaron Rodgers was dealing with a calf injury throughout training camp. Week 1, a couple plays in, torn Achilles. And so it's a very, very dangerous game. And the reason why calf injuries are so tricky is because, you just never know how you're feeling from a day-to-day basis. One day you might be feeling well. The next day you might not. And so it's like, at this point for the Cincinnati Bengals, they got to start thinking about the future. And I understand that they have the roster to compete for a Super Bowl. They have all the talent on offense. Their defense can be pretty decent for them, but their offense is what they heavily rely on to take them far, to take them places, to lead them to a Super Bowl. And if Joe Burrow isn't half of himself out there on the field, the Cincinnati Bengals stand no chance. And if this is the version we're going to get from Joe Burrow from week to week, leading all the way up into the playoffs, if they end up making it, they're not going to end up winning anything. They're not going to win nothing with Joe Burrow playing this way. And so I think the Cincinnati Bengals have to be smart about this. They have to play this safe. They have to make a decision, and it's going to be a pretty harsh decision. They have to tell Joe Burrow that, hey, you're not 100%, and it's going to hurt us for this year. But at the end of the day, we're thinking about the long term. We're thinking about the future. We just gave you a contract right now. Joe Burrow just got that contract right now to start off the season. We don't want anything, hurting our future, because we put all of our future into you. And so, like Big H mentioned, these guys said that Joe Burrow got hurt. He ended up saying he was back. They put a helmet on him, a week before the season started. But in between, during that time, we got no word, no news about, how the rehab process was going, how his calf was feeling. It was just one day Joe Burrow got hurt. Couple of weeks goes by in training camp and preseason and all of that stuff, and next thing you know, he's back in practice and he's ready to go for week 1. And we saw how he looked in every game so far this season. Hasn't looked great whatsoever. And so it's a very, very dangerous game right now, what the Bengals are doing and what the Bengals are playing. It's Joe Burrow is their future. It's not easy to find a franchise quarterback like that. They had to sacrifice a lot. They had to lose a lot of games to get a guy like Joe Burrow. And so if you're not able to protect your guy with the O-line that you built, and if you're not able to make executive decisions on his future and his health, it's not going to lead you anywhere, man. And it isn't, even though, Joe Burrow is definitely going to play this upcoming week against the Cardinals, I'm not too sure if, they're going to look any better than they did last week. I'm not too sure what changes. Like, the play calling may change, but, at the end of the day, every defense in the league is going to do the exact same thing the Titans did. They're going to send a blitz at Joe Burrow, and they're going to force him to do something with the limited amount of time he has behind that offensive line. And Joe Burrow last year was one of the best quarterbacks against the blitz. And now he looks like one of the worst quarterbacks against the blitz, because he just can't use his legs. He can't be mobile. He can't get out of the pocket and make plays. He can't utilize his legs to go extend drives and go for runs. And so he's really limited right now. And, and of course, Zach Taylor is not helping his case whatsoever either. And we've always had our issues with Zach Taylor going back to the year they went to the Super Bowl. Some things just never change. And that's just one thing that's never going to change for the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow's greatness will always, kind of keep Zach Taylor's play calling under wraps. All of Zach Taylor's issues will be swept under the rug because of how great of a quarterback Joe Burrow is. And if Joe Burrow can't be great, then Zach Taylor is the only guy that's going to get exposed in this whole situation. And so, it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of take this whole situation from week to week. When it comes to a guy like Joe Burrow, because each and every week is going to be extremely tough when your quarterback's not at 100%, the leader of the team. And at some point, if they end up not winning a lot of games, they might just have to shut him down for the rest of the season and start thinking about the future, start thinking about next year. And next year comes with a whole lot of questions. Like Abdi mentioned as well, T. Higgins might not be able to come back due to the fact that there's just not enough money to go around. Jamar Chase will be up for an extension. I'm sure they're probably going to look to, to give him an extension. It's, unlike what we did with Justin Jefferson, I think the Cincinnati Bengals are pretty much going to try to lock him up in this upcoming offseason. So, it's going to be interesting to see where the Bengals go from here.
Record a new hit, then we making us a film. Wouldn't sign a deal if I got a couple mil. Been in the lab, now they throwing out deals. Me and now Lakes, now that's overkill.